Well, hello everyone. I'm here for a very exciting, different video today. I am doing a mystery kit. Now, you may have remembered that I did a mystery kit once before as part of a collab with a couple of other channels. This mystery kit is a little bit different since it's provided by an actual gallery. They do the mystery kit to support their scholarship fund to support future artists. And so you buy this kit for $25 and there's mystery supplies inside, and then you create from that. And then in October there will be an actual show. I just got my box today. It is August 3rd, so I've got plenty of time to work on this and get it started, especially if I'm given materials that I have no idea how to use. Alright, let's go ahead and get this thing open. It's really big. It's very hard for me to get the whole thing on screen. There was a huge array of things inside the box: puzzle pieces, plastic plants, Sculpey, some ribbon, some tissue paper, some cotton pieces, both pink and cotton balls, some elastics, googly eyes, beads, paper flowers, and of course some yarn. Plenty of objects to use in this project. I'm going to go ahead and get started now, and I'll probably have to take a break at some point and work on other things, but let's go ahead and film the first part of it, and we'll see how it turns out. The box became vital for this project. I used it a lot. I would say that's the resource I used the most. I wanted to create an air balloon ship, so what I started to do first was cut the box and then put slight cuts in it to be able to curve it. And then I tried doing like a tissue paper cover to make it look like fabric, and it just wasn't working. I was really frustrated with it. So I instead decided I was going to do paper mache. So I built the rest of the frame for the top of the air balloon by taping in the different cardboard pieces to make the curves, and that gave me a really nice base to do the paper mache over. I did test out the tissue paper once more with the frame, and I still didn't like it, so I was trying as hard as possible not to paper mache just because it takes so long, but eventually I had to give in and do the paper mache. So I ripped up the book that they gave on the inside of the magazine, and I used some Mod Podge, and I paper mached the top of a balloon. This took a really long time and took an even longer time to dry, so I'm glad I really started this project in August because this part of the project took a really long time. I had to do about 3 layers of paper with Mod Podge, and then I had to, but in between each layer I had to let it dry. So now I'm trying to do the post, which is going to connect the ship to the balloon, and while that's drying, while the paper mache is drying and setting, I then decided I was going to paint the canvas. So originally when I first started, I was going to do a completely 3D piece, so the canvas was actually going to be the base of the ocean, and then everything else was going to come up off of it. So I spent, probably 10 to 15 minutes painting this water and getting it the right color and the way I liked it. And then unfortunately I found out that I cannot do a 3D piece, or it has to be a hanging piece. So then I had to rethink my entire project. So all of this became all for naught. I ended up having to paint over most of this. So I painted in different waves and tested out different colors. I was using paint that I haven't used in a really long time. It's been a while since I used acrylics. So I was just getting used to using acrylic again and having fun with creating this nice wave texture that, like I said, I ended up painting right over. So I had to build the ship out of the box. I didn't want to waste or ruin the box in case I needed more of it, and so I created a paper template of what the ship was going to look like that was the right size and all the pieces fit together. So then when I put it on the cardboard, it worked really nicely, and I already knew how it was going to be put together. It took me a little while to come up with the proper design, so I didn't show that on camera just because it took me so long to figure out what proper size I wanted and shape and everything. So I'm just showing now the final creation of the cardboard piece. And after taping it all together, I did eventually hot glue it all together, just because it solidified it. I also used hot glue as kind of like a 3D decor. I put hot glue siding on it, which you'll see once it's painted, it really makes it pop. I also put little gold dots across the top of the ship to give it more detailing. So right now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to attach the balloon to the canvas at an angle. And this is the point where I realized I had to change everything, so I started to do things off camera because it was faster. So a couple of the things that you missed, right now I am sculpting the Kraken that's going to come out of the ocean. And while I'm doing that, I'll tell you what else I did. So you'll see I repainted the waves on the top, created a horizon line, and made a new sky pattern. I also hot glued the ship and painted it white. I took the air balloon and I painted that white, 2 layers of white, and then a layer of gold paint, gold acrylic paint. And then after that, I added some gold ribbon to it to give it a more fabric feel. Right now I'm painting the ship, so you'll see the hot glue really makes the paint pop, and you can see the different lines. And that way I can just add basic shading, dark to light, and then of course the gold across the top. And it gives it a really nice texture that looks like wood, or it should look like wood, hopefully. On the inside I just painted a basic brown base because I knew a majority of people are not going to be able to see the inside of the ship from the angle that it's at, but I didn't want to leave it white either. I spent a lot of time painting this. It needed quite a few layers, even though I painted the white underneath. For some reason the acrylic paint was coming out really thin, so I had to do quite a few layers and let that dry. Now I painted waves on another piece of the box, the cardboard box, and I'm cutting that up to give the 3D wave effect. Now originally these were going to protrude straight out of the painting, but because I can't do a 3D piece like that, I then had to figure out how I was going to use these 3D waves at an angle to make the piece able to be hung. I was having a lot of trouble connecting the pieces to the canvas until I got the idea to actually rip the canvas off of the frame, then put it behind the frame, and then use the frame as my piece of what I'm attaching things to. Hopefully that makes sense from what you're seeing, and that made it so much easier to give the pieces support rather than just gluing them right on the canvas. I could then attach them to the frame itself, and it was so much easier. It also gave it a nice framed feel once it's finished that I think a lot of the other pieces that I've seen don't have, so I feel really happy about that. I layered the waves and I just hot glued them down. And at this point, even though it wasn't exactly what I wanted, I was really happy with how it was coming out. It was becoming something else than what I originally intended, but it was still really cool, and I was really, really, really getting into it at this point. So now I'm just cutting the extra canvas off. I decided to hot glue the fabric on the bottom to the outside of the frame, and then across the top I cut it and I just glue it to the back. The reason for that is because the bottom and the bottom sides needed more support for the things that were hot glued to it, and so I wanted to give myself a little bit of extra canvas to help support that. I used the cotton in on the top of the waves just to give it more of a 3D feel. Even though I really wanted to do painted detail, I wanted more 3D feel, and I also wanted to use more of the given materials. So now I'm going to spend quite a lot of time doing little detailing because, of course, if you are familiar with my channel, you know that I love all the little details. So I spent a lot of time doing these little tiny patterns along the ocean waves in the front, and I think it really adds to the final look of the piece. I think it was definitely worth taking the time to do that because it just adds a nice little touch. And it makes it more cohesive to my other work because I do a lot of those detailings and patterns in my watercolors. I just used a white acrylic for the detailing, and that was pretty much it. Just kind of layering it up as I went. I also added little gold paint, metallic gold paint, to the ship and a couple of other little detailed spots. I also wanted to, I added in some puzzle pieces as well, again because I wanted to use more of the given materials, and I was planning on making the Kraken pink anyways, so the puzzle pieces fit in to add like a 3D depth to the piece that I really liked.
I also added some dots into the sky just because I really wanted to add some patterning into the sky. I wish I could have gone a little bit more detailed in the sky, but I think it came out alright. I'm fairly happy with the results. Added in some flowers to the balloon. Originally, I was going to add in some beading to the top, but the paper mache came out really thick, so I ended up not being able to thread through the paper mache, so I had to just glue some flowers on the top and call that done. The Kraken took a while to dry. It was an air dry clay, which is not something I would personally choose. I would have chosen Sculpey just because it's faster, but that's the material I was given. So I had to wait for it to dry, and it honestly wasn't even fully dry by the time I was painting it, so I was trying to be really careful while I was painting it, which is why I do skip ahead because I was moving quite slow painting this. Ideally, I would have liked to also paint it after it was dry and not attached to the canvas, and that would have made it a lot faster, but because it's an air dry clay, it had to be glued into the position that it needed to dry in, and so I couldn't detach it after the fact. See, you'll see I jumped ahead there. I spent quite a lot of time painting the base. I had to paint the base color quite a few times before it really looked decent, and that gets boring. So now I'm just adding on the little dots and details to the Kraken, and now I'm adding on some little string to make it look like the balloon is attached to the ship. I had some problems with that, and the hot glue wasn't sticking with the rubber bands that I was using, and so I kind of got frustrated. You'll see I went away from it, and then I decided that the twist ties that I was given, I could rip the paper off the twist ties and use the wire from the twist ties. So that's what I did for that. And used the little plastic plants as seaweed that the Kraken's pulling up from the depths, and it's done.
So I think this is just about finished. I'm pretty happy with it. I did a little detailing with the beads and some rope to make it look like the balloon's actually attached to the ship. Obviously lots of detailing on the Kraken, and added in some little reeds from the bottom that he'd be pulling up with them. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Not exactly what I originally intended, but I think that it came out okay. I'm fairly happy with it, and it's got to be turned in today, so put the hanger on the back. I'm going to get a couple shots of it hanging up so that you can get a better idea of what it looks like on the wall. And yeah, so pretty excited that it is done. If you like this video, please do remember to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I make new travel and art content every single week, or at least I try to. I know I've been a little inconsistent just because I've been so busy. But if you did enjoy this, I know it's a little bit different than I've done before. Leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts. I don't do that many crafty projects anymore just because I don't have the time, but this was a nice little break, something a little bit different for my channel, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, remember to live, love, and travel on. Bye!